A state secret law goes into effect in China, and it could affect foreign businesses in the country.
I'm in the Pacific island nation of Solomon Islands, where they've just voted in a new prime minister. Join me to find out why this election has been closely watched by Taiwan and China.
A day on the beach in the shadow of Taiwan's last running nuclear plant. Find out why Taiwan's nuclear phase-out may take a little longer. Plus, fighting for gold. Taiwanese boxer Lai Chu-en gears up for this year's Olympics. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Kavat. China just updated its state secrets law in a move aimed at enhancing its national security. Sally, what is this new revision?
On Wednesday, China broadened the scope of its state secrets laws aimed at bolstering state control over internet companies. Beijing hopes it will strengthen national security and counter-espionage measures after the United States' Central Intelligence Agency last year announced that it had strengthened its own networks in China. Now, the original law covered the way that military facilities and Communist Party organs manage sensitive information, but the amendment that is now causing wider fears is that it now compels internet companies, or so-called network operators, that's huge companies like Tencent, Weibo and ByteDance, to monitor user posts and pass on or hand over any information or data stored on their networks to China's state security apparatus if they ask for it.
And Sally, what has the international response been?
Well, the revision to the state secrets laws impacts Chinese tech firms, but it also impacts foreign businesses who are now expressing worries about the law's unpredictability, uncertainty, and lack of clarity. And there's particular concern about a new category called work secrets, which they say is ambiguously defined and vulnerable to inconsistent interpretation, which could lead to arbitrary arrests. Which is why here Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council that deals with cross-strait relations has issued a strongly worded caution against visiting China now, particularly concerned about the over 100,000 Taiwanese people doing business over there. The changes come amid growing tensions between the US and China and widespread global concerns about Beijing clamping down on online content that it deems as harmful to its own interests. So while China claims a need to protect its national security, this update to the state secrets law could end up harming its openness for business.
That was Sally Jensen for us live in Taipei. The Solomon Islands has a new leader. Lawmakers in the Pacific Island nation have voted in former Foreign Minister Jeremiah Manele. The new Prime Minister will now be under pressure to address pressing domestic issues and better manage his country's growing ties with China. Louise Watt sends us this from the capital, Honiara.
42-year-old homemaker Janet Ringo spent the night outside the Solomon Islands main hospital, waiting to see a doctor for sores that have appeared on her body. She doesn't know when she'll get in or if there will be any medicine available when she does. The health system in this Pacific Island nation is struggling, and locals like Ringo are hoping recent elections here bring change.
And I'm panicking because people come, then slow, then they die. I got a new member, him need for him improve here, man. Him no fit for him stay one place, him need him more improve.
Ringo's hopes now fall on this man, Jeremiah Manele, the Solomon Islands' newly elected Prime Minister. This island group just northeast of Australia is one of the world's poorest nations. But as its leader, Manele is now in the global spotlight because of what his leadership could mean for China's influence in the Pacific region. In 2022, when he was foreign minister, Manele signed a confidential security agreement with China, alarming countries like the US and Australia and causing concern domestically, with residents here left wondering what powers the secret deal grants China. This arrangement came after the Solomons cut diplomatic ties with Taiwan and China began pouring money into the islands. It has spent $71 million to build this stadium, which was originally going to be funded by Taiwan. It's the largest scale Chinese infrastructure project in the region, built so the Solomon Islands could host last year's Pacific Games. But critics complain that no one's used the stadium since.
If China can build a national stadium that large, why not build our roads? Why not invest in health services? So these are the things that people were hoping to look for, developments that would touch the lives of our people.
Back at the only hospital in the capital, people are still waiting to be seen. It's just a 10-minute drive from the parliament, where the newly elected lawmakers are preparing to start their work. While the same party is still in power, people waiting here for care are hoping the new government prioritizes their needs over catering to foreign partners like China. Klein Wong and Louise Watt in Honiara, Solomon Islands for TaiwanPlus.
Disagreements between Manila and Beijing continue to rumble over territorial claims in the South China Sea. It comes as the Philippines gathers its allies for large-scale military drills called Balikatan. And as Rick Lout reports, the French Navy is joining for the first time.
The navies of France and the Philippines are conducting joint drills here in the South China Sea. It's on the sidelines of Balikatan 2024, large-scale military drills attended by France for the first time. They've been conducting cross-deck landings with helicopters, search and rescue operations and anti-boarding drills. It comes as the two countries' militaries look to increase cooperation. They're in talks on an official defence agreement that would allow access to each other's bases.
The French Navy are glad that they were included in the exercise, and according to them, this will not be the last time they will be joining us. They also wanted to have their own bilateral exercise with us, not just during Balikatan exercise.
As China becomes more assertive of territorial claims here in the South China Sea, and the Philippines says it is determined to defend its sovereignty, it's been rallying its allies. France has also been paying more attention to the Indo-Pacific, but it's unclear how much it would be willing to weigh in on issues of sovereignty, territorial claims, so-called red lines for Beijing. France has one of the closest relationships with China in Western Europe. Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to visit Paris in just a few days. Balikatan, literally meaning shoulder to shoulder, is a show of unity from the Philippines and its allies. These relationships are set to be put to the test as tensions continue to mount here in the South China Sea. Alex Chen and Rick Lout in the South China Sea for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is set to phase out nuclear power by next year, but the country might not be saying goodbye to atomic energy just yet. Sally Jensen went to Kunding to find out why.
Playing on the beach, a stone's throw away from a pair of nuclear reactors. This seaside resort on the southern tip of Taiwan has been neighbours with an almost 2-gigawatt nuclear power plant for 40 years. But not all visitors here have noticed.
本来就不知道，我不知道，我来了才知道。我现在知道，真的假的？我觉得超奇怪的。为什么？因为我觉得这是一个很休闲、很快乐的地方，然后也有很多学生就是毕业旅行啊，或者是放假的时候会来这边玩，但是隔壁却有一个核电厂，然后我觉得有点小怪，对啊。
我觉得真的无所谓。因为其实现在很多东西，其实你说对人体有害的东西，其实真的太多了。 那其实我个人是觉得，当然对于人来说啊，我是觉得无所谓。
These young visitors may seem ambivalent, but the last 2 referenda on it show most Taiwanese have strong and varied opinions on the use of nuclear energy in the country. That over there is Manasseh, Taiwan's last running nuclear power plant. It provides 6% of the country's electricity and is hugely controversial, dividing public opinion over safety and environmental concerns. It's now set to be pulled offline next year. That's under the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's nuclear-free homeland program. Since the party's founding in 1986, it has pushed to phase out nuclear energy as a power source. Back then, there were 3 nuclear power plants, providing over 40% of Taiwan's electricity. And while the DPP again won the country's leadership in January elections, the opposition KMT won a slight majority of legislative seats, and they want to increase nuclear power generation and extend the life of the last running power plant. But a vocal anti-nuclear camp is fighting back against the KMT's moves, concerned about waste management and the possibility of earthquake-triggered atomic disasters. Ultimately, despite safety assurances from the plant's operators, observers say it'll be politics that decides whether nuclear energy has a future in Taiwan.
Because of the current divide within the legislature, it is a kind of question how things will pan out. And so I think we're in this kind of confused period. I think we'll see further contention regarding nuclear energy or also other forms of energy going forward.
As this power plant prepares to shut down operations by May next year, the KMT will be trying to shore up support in the legislature to overturn the DPP's decades-old nuclear energy policy. And if they succeed, it could mean these nuclear reactors remain a fixture at the beach for much longer. Chris Ma and Sally Jensen in Kenting for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese boxer Lai Chu-en made an history at the Asian Games last year when he bagged a silver for Taiwan. It was the country's best performance in men's boxing at the competition in over 6 decades. Now Lai is eyeing Olympic gold as he prepares for the Paris Games this summer. Leslie Liao met him in Kaohsiung.
Taiwanese boxer Lai Chu-en is a lean, mean punching machine, and he's all in on the Paris 2024 Olympics.
我是来自台湾原住民部落的孩子，那我是来自台湾族，然后我是赖主任，谢谢。
At just over 60 kilograms, Lai competes in the Olympics lightweight division. Although he's not considered a heavy hitter, he's agile and explosive and can deliver a flurry of blows in a matter of seconds.
我是比较属于灵活的，就是脚步移动跟出拳比较速度比较快。
Lai still worries about his ability to hit hard, but his coach says that isn't a problem.
然后我常跟主任说，站在奥运颁奖台最高点的那一位选手，他不会是拳最重的，但他却是技术性最好的。
But mental blocks have been a major stressor for Lai. Although he first qualified for the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, he fell short in the qualifying rounds. Afterwards, he fell into a slump for several years, a slump his coach was determined to pull him out of.
主恩在国内算是很优秀的选手，那也舍不得他这样子荒废自己。自己当运动员的时期也有遗憾跟后悔过，所以我不希望这个遗憾后悔在他身上又发生一次。
Lai ultimately overcame his doubts and made history. In 2023, he won silver at the Asian Games, the best performance for a Taiwanese male boxer at the competition since 1958. Lai's path to becoming a boxer wasn't at all easy. He was raised in a single-parent household in Pingtung County in southern Taiwan. In middle school, he was part of the track and field team, but later got into boxing at the urging of one of his teachers. Learning how to dodge punches and give them back twice as hard sparked his interest in the sport. After graduating high school, his mother wanted him to attend military school as a path to a stable career. But Lai's dream was to attend college, a decision he knew would put his family under great economic pressure.
妈妈她也很难接受我这个 决定这样，但最后妈妈还是让我去读大学。
Now, as an Olympian, Lai is selfless in his pursuit of greatness. He's always said he wanted to take his coach to the Olympics.
蛮开心，很多人能帮助我去我的梦想的一个地方，还包含主恩。
And Lai's dreams don't end with the Olympics. He also hopes to one day open a boxing gym back home.
会希望盖在村庄的原因是因为我希望，很多小朋友希望他们可以借由运动来改变自己的环境。
Quick, resilient, and adaptable. These are words that can describe Lai's boxing style. But his coach says they can also be used to describe who he is as a person.
他自己也认为他不是打拳击的那一种个性，但是他的本身的性格却让他可以在台湾、在亚洲能有一席之地。
Yet Lai remains humble, something his coach has supported.
他跟我说一句话，让我有很大的影响，就是努力做自己的太阳，成为别人的光。
Whether inside the ring or out, Lai Chu-en is a fighter through and through. Ryan Wu and Leslie Liao in Kaohsiung for TaiwanPlus.
We're going to take a quick break, but still to come on TaiwanPlus News, no more funny business. Taiwan's Education Ministry gets serious about school discipline.
I'm Joyce Zhen in Kumamoto, Japan, and you're watching TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. New standards for discipline in elementary and middle schools are on the way. And as John Van Trieste reports, they're proving controversial.
A beloved student tradition gets a bit out of hand. Taipei's Chunggong High School tolerates its graduating class tossing their books and papers out the windows at the end of exams. When one student set off fireworks amid the paper avalanche, even though they were warned not to, administrators were a bit taken aback. But there are national standards for discipline in high schools, so the school knew how it was allowed to punish the offender. In elementary and middle schools, such rules don't yet exist. Each region of Taiwan has so far been allowed to make its own decisions. That looks about to change, though. The Education Ministry plans to put a new code of standards in effect this August. The rules were only announced Wednesday, but already the education sector is talking about them. Views are mixed.
包含到时候可以跟校外机构，也许是警察单位等等求助，我觉得这是有定的。在整个法规上、常规面上，我觉得还是 OK 的。只是说呢，很可能需要引导大家去怎么样去定法规才是合理的。
One NGO is worried about several particular changes, mainly the fact that teachers won't be able to police uniforms or what might be considered inappropriate behavior, like public displays of affection. Teachers can write to guardians and ask students to write a self-reflection, but they're overall expected to react with positive reinforcement.
因为你是准则嘛，那准则的意思是说，不管你们开会结果状况如何，这些东西是我不会罚的，也不会去碰的。
Taiwan school rules have changed rapidly in recent years. It only officially banned corporal punishment in schools in 2006. But where to draw the line between students' rights and teachers' ability to control the classroom and build good character is a question that's still not settled. John Su and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Widespread demonstrations supporting Palestinians at universities across the United States have erupted into violent clashes with pro-Israeli counter-protesters. The demonstrations, which are taking place at over 100 campuses in the country, are calling for divestment from Israel and a ceasefire in Gaza. Rosie Grenenja reports.
A peaceful demonstration turned violent. At the University of California in Los Angeles, Activists calling for an end to the war in Gaza were surrounded by pro-Israeli counter-protesters, shooting fireworks into the encampment and diffusing pepper spray. Physical altercations also erupted between the two groups. Police arrived hours later to break up the confrontation.
I think that it's kind of foolish that law enforcement didn't decide to step in when people were being beaten with metal bats, maced, yelling very threatening things, very disgusting things, when in reality, everybody that's in the encampment, that's not what they're there for. It has been a peaceful protest.
Dozens of injuries have been reported at UCLA, including at least one hospitalization. Hours earlier in New York, police broke into a building being occupied by pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia University and cleared the encampment they set up on school grounds.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Over 100 students were arrested, many saying they were injured in what they're calling a violent confrontation. Police were brought in at the university president's request, after protesters shrugged off the school's ultimatum to abandon the encampment or face suspension. Protests at this school over Israel's war on Gaza began 2 weeks ago, with students calling for the university to cut financial ties to Israel. It sparked the movement that has spread to colleges across the country. Professors from the university condemned the school's choice to call in police and stood in solidarity with the students' movement.
This is not about Columbia or CCNY or Berkeley or UCLA or any other place where the students have risen up. This is the conscience of a nation speaking through your kids, through young people who are risking their futures, who are risking suspension, expulsion, criminal arrest in order to wake people up in this country.
Some of the teachers drew parallels between this activism and the student-led movement at Columbia in 1968 against American involvement in the Vietnam War. At the City College of New York, anti-war demonstrators also clashed with police. There have been many such confrontations at schools across the country, leading to more than 1,000 arrests in the last 2 weeks. Politicians across party lines are condemning the protest action, but activists stand defiant.
You must create your own campus agitations. University business cannot continue as usual amidst a genocide. Rest assured that history will absolve many of us, but certainly not all of us.
We will not fear.
At Brown University in Rhode Island, student protesters have peacefully dismantled their encampment after the school's leaders agreed to vote on divesting from companies that supply weapons to Israel. But other universities are yet to acknowledge demonstrators' requests. Despite the recent violence, students are continuing to protest on college grounds, and some are taking to the streets, showing no sign of backing down as they call for an end to the violence in Gaza. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
10 Maoist rebels are dead after a gun battle with security forces in central India. The fighting in Chhattisgarh state comes after an April 16th clash in which 29 rebels were killed. The Maoists have been waging a guerrilla war in the region for decades and say they are fighting for the rights of farmers and labourers. This latest outbreak of violence comes as India holds national elections in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is seeking a rare third term in office. A scientific breakthrough in Australia could make a sizable dent in our greenhouse gas emissions. Maddie Anstruther has more.
This could soon be powering airlines around the globe. Researchers at an Australian university have developed a way to use the gases emitted from garbage to produce sustainable jet fuel. They say they can transform methane and carbon dioxide into the building blocks of unrefined fuel, using a chemical reaction triggered by firing high-energy electrons in normal atmospheric conditions.
Unusually, you have a win-win approach here. In one sense, we have this idea that we're going to be capturing emissions that are coming from landfill. On the other, we have a sector that really needs a new technology in order to become more sustainable.
The aviation industry accounts for around 3% of global carbon emissions, and landfills are among the world's largest sources of methane, a greenhouse gas with a warming power over 20 times that of carbon dioxide. But armed with this new science, what once seemed unsightly and harmful has been transformed into a site of untapped potential.
Well, Australia landfills 28 million tonnes of waste every year, and it's actually a resource that we can use. We can turn it into materials and energy.
Over 200 countries pledged to rapidly and sustainably cut methane emissions at last year's UN Climate Summit in Dubai. To achieve this, many will be counting on new scientific and technological breakthroughs. But it may be some time before methane can be turned into jet fuel at a commercial level.
I guess what we've proved to date is the science, that there is a valid chemical route in order to produce these fuels. Now we need to solve the engineering challenges.
The global aviation industry, which has committed to net zero by 2050, will be watching developments closely. And if things go smoothly, perhaps consumers can start to feel a little less rubbish about their own waste. Leon Lien and Maddie Anstruther for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus News. Finally, today, check out these images of Mexico's annual Donkey Festival. I'm Ikavat. Take care. See you next time.